Those of us who modify and build cars can find it really hard to settle with where we are at with a build. Whether it's wanting to freshen up the paint dial in the fitment with a new set of wheels, or the endless pursuit of wanting more power. As a personal connoisseur of sub 200 horsepower naturally aspirated vehicles, there has always come a time where that decision must be made. Am I going to keep this thing stock, or am I going to slap a turbo on this thing and hope it doesn't send piston 4 to the moon? What this decision truly boils down to is whether or not you should take something like a naturally aspirated engine and boost it, or if you would be better off starting over with something that already has forced induction. Also, by the way, if you're looking for some new shirts to wear around the garage or go on a cruise or just hang out in some Martini Works apparel, we got a bunch of stuff over at martiniworks.com, like Garage Shirt, which is the perfect shirt for working on cars if you're looking at putting a turbo on your NA car. Now, unfortunately, it's no surprise that adding something like a turbo or supercharger to a naturally aspirated vehicle is going to be quite the financial investment. The healthiest stuff never tastes as good, and the fun stuff is always the most expensive. I don't know why that is, just the way of life nowadays. Typically, you're looking at anywhere between $3,000 to $7,000, depending on the quality of parts that you go with, and honestly, which engine or vehicle you're looking to do this to. Now, if you're sitting there with, I don't know, let's say, just for instance, a 1998 Mitsubishi Eclipse GS with the naturally aspirated Chrysler 428 engine, you're looking at that Han Racecraft turbo kit that's just sitting there. You hit the forums with a question about what it would take to actually turbocharge your beloved base model 2G Eclipse, and you get absolutely demolished by the 35-year-old DSM guy that sticking money into a 428 is pointless, and you'd be better off spending that money to go buy a GST. Now, this is a very specific instance, and if you haven't guessed already, yes, this exact situation did happen to me. Anyway, even though at the time it did really hurt to hear, the guy kind of did have a point. The amount of money that I would have invested into that car to add a measly 8 pounds of boost would have gotten me well on my way to an already turbocharged car that was capable of much more. Let's say you were to spend that $3,000 on a factory turbocharged car like an STI, an Evo, a 335i, a GTI, whatever it might be, your money can go a lot further. But that's not what I want to hear. I don't care about those cars. I love my car, and I want it to be a little unique, and I want to take the challenge of boosting something that hasn't been boosted before. No problem. I'm here for it. Martini Works is here for it. But here are some other things you should take into consideration before you start racking up that credit card bill. Now, that turbo kit already may be a bit pricey. Unfortunately, for a lot of cars, that is an end game for getting some more power. When it comes to adding forced induction to a naturally aspirated vehicle, odds are there are many other things that are going to have to be upgraded or swapped out to keep up with the additional air and power you're going to be introducing to the car. Things like cooling and fueling are things that are more than likely going to need to be upgraded. This leads to things like an upgraded fuel pump, bigger injectors, an oil cooler, upgraded radiators, and so on. Now, an important thing to keep in mind here as well is that engines are built differently. All engines are different and unique to each other. Some are built like absolute tanks that are capable of taking on a few hundred extra horsepower without missing a beat, and then there are some other ones that are like my 428 back in the day that cap out at 8 pounds of boost before it requires to open up the entire engine and swap out its internals to be capable of handling any more than like an additional 80 horsepower. A lot of high compression NA engines that are found in modern sports cars nowadays sometimes struggle with adding forced induction. The FRS and BRZ is actually a great example for this with the FA20 engine. Now, not saying it can't be done, because it has actually been done quite a bit, but since you're already running such high compression with the naturally aspirated configuration, adding forced induction and increasing that pressure puts a lot of stress and strain on those internals. This is where you would see people switch out stock connecting rods to a stronger forged option, getting the cylinders bored and swapping out to lower compression pistons. But again, this is specific to each engine, its design, and its construction. The FA20 might not be the perfect candidate with a 12.5 to 1 compression ratio and the internals that start crying at about 350 wheel horsepower. But an LS with a 9.4 to 1 and some beefy factory internals doesn't even think twice about it. Now, I just want to clarify, I know that there are plenty of turbo BRZs and FRSs out there in the world, and many of them are fine, but they can be just a little bit tricky, and you do tend to see a lot of them blown up every now and then. So let's say you're good with dropping the cash on a turbo kit, you understand what numbers you can safely be at, or are willing to upgrade those internals to run more. You get the fueling under control, everything is staying cool. What's next? Well, you're gonna need to tell the car what to do with all of this new stuff. Proper tuning is essential when adding forced induction to a car. Sometimes this can be done with a stock ECU, but it's also possible that your car is gonna require some sort of aftermarket ECU to get the job done. A lot of modern turbo kits do come with at least like a base map that allows you to drive the car with the new setup. However, you're still going to need to take it to someone who can properly tune the car to get the most out of it. Since your engine is now going to be making more horsepower, you should probably also consider like the rest of the car. See if the rest of the car is up for the task of getting that power down to the ground. Does your clutch need to be upgraded? Are your axles going to hold up? What's the conditions of your tires look like? Probably not good. All things you should probably consider. Now, outside of the cost of all these parts and everything adding up to the total bill, there's another factor that you should probably keep in mind before diving in head first, and that is, are you confident in your mechanical skills to actually do this? The good news is that a lot of pre-built kits out there do include a lot of the stuff that you need right away. They've been built by professionals. They try to make the install as easy and straightforward as possible without having to do a ton of fabrication or anything like that. So someone who's never really done something like this before can go ahead and do it themselves. However, nothing is ever perfect and nothing is ever as easy as it seems. And this is a pretty intense modification that you're doing for your car. And if you mess something up, it can go very wrong very quickly. So make sure you are ready for that challenge, or at least have someone who has some experience in this help you out. There is something really awesome and special about taking something that was never supposed to have that much power and making it have that much power. It's rewarding, it sounds f***ing amazing, and it's cool as hell. It's gonna cost you thousands of dollars to do so. Yeah, absolutely. Is it worth it? Well, that's something that I'm gonna have to leave up to you to decide. But if you do decide to do that, I'll just let you know that we're here for it. But if you need any parts to mod your car, you can do so right here at martiniworks.com.